Welcome to my new podcast season of Ignite Purpose with Christina Foxwell. This season is season 5, and we are looking into lessons from the Glass Angel, being better together. The Glass Angel is the title of my new book that's launching in October 2022. What's it about? It's about healing, growth, and transformation, which is exactly what this season is dedicated to. In this season, we're going to explore transformation and how it can impact our lives, change our view of our story, and help us live a life filled with purpose and compassion. A life where we can be better together. In my story, I have found that I could not change the past. I couldn't change the way I was seeing my story until I was willing to look at it differently, until I was willing to heal from my pain and stop the cycles of behavior that kept me fueled into trauma and kept me in survival mode. I want to share with you that we can move from surviving into thriving, and maybe it's time to live, love, and lead now. Now is the time, because it's the time to be the best of you, to be free. This is me. Tune in. If you want to reach out, it's www.ignitepurpose.com.au. I can't wait to be in your world. Let's dive into today's episode, which is all about compassion. Welcome to Ignite Purpose with Christina. I am your host, Christina Foxwell, and in this season, we're going to look at lessons from the Glass Angel, being better together. This episode is called Unlocking Compassion. The purpose of this podcast is to support you out there with stories and tools to really lean into your healing and transformation, and to help you step from simply surviving in your world into thriving. And for me, thriving is where we are able to be in a peaceful place and use what we have toward living our best life. And only you can do it. In this week, we're going to explore how to unlock compassion. If you listen to our previous episode, I spoke about having compassion for self. And today, I really wanted to dive into compassion a little bit so that we can understand it, because it's an interesting term. And I do believe that if we can define things, we can give language to our thoughts and our emotions and really create more clarity in our world. So I'm going to share with you how I see compassion and really why we need it in our lives. Let's start with the definition. What is compassion? So compassion is a place of feeling really deeply with others, a place of holding space for someone when they're going through their difficult times. You know, what we call life's ups and downs. Compassion allows us to connect with others. See, when we connect, we can hear, see, and value them in that moment for who they are. And in compassion, we can actually heal relationships and move forward with wisdom and a sense of inner peace. Compassion is not just feeling with others, it also includes a desire to help others really be free from suffering. There is a real desire to be somebody who can support somebody else. And I want to just create a final element. Compassion is a form of love. So, what's the impact of a lack of compassion? So, if this is what compassion looks like, and this is the definition, what's the lack of compassion? Well, I think we have all experienced this. I'm not new to feeling a lack of compassion, or sometimes to have a lack of compassion for somebody else. Okay, so let's understand what creates a lack of compassion in our lives. So the first one that I want to call out is when we've had to toughen up in our world so that we then expect others to do the same. I remember going through really challenging hardships in my story. And I used to say, if I can do it, you can do it too. And you know what? I was really hard on other women who were going through the same challenge, and maybe even other men. And sometimes I had lost the compassion I needed to be a supporter for them. to be a good coach, to be a good leader. And I think it really comes from that toughening up piece. The second one I want to share is sometimes we're incredibly hard on ourselves, which kind of falls out of that toughening up piece, right? And because I have to be hard on myself, I expect you to be like me. And so I'm going to be hard on you. When we're stressed, that's another one. We can come from this place of armor and really this need to fight or fly or freeze. And in that moment of being stressed, we actually emotionally disconnect from ourselves in order to survive. And when we do that, we have a lack of compassion. The next one that I want to share is burnout. I've been there. And I've really got to work on my fatigue so that it doesn't eat me alive. But when we're burnt out, we really just don't have the energy to work with somebody else's challenges. I will say this to you, though. I think we've got to reach a place where we recognize that supporting is very different from fixing. And supporting is being able to hold a place of deep compassion with somebody whilst we share with them how we see it and we allow them to recognize how they see it and then find their way. So burnout, I want to call out, it's a big thing. Maybe we've not yet actually had the opportunity to develop our emotional intelligence. This can be a tricky one because I don't want anyone out there to have what I call a pufferfish moment as I share this, because emotional intelligence is a form of understanding my emotions and knowing how to navigate it with others. Being able to read their emotions and knowing how to navigate. See, when we wrestle with our emotional intelligence, we have lower levels of empathy. And if our empathy level is low, it could actually look like being hard and judgmental on others. We struggle to lead ourselves and regulate our own emotions when we feel overwhelmed. We can ignore or pretend to be completely oblivious, or maybe we are, of the emotions of others because we're so numb. We get frustrated by our emotions in others and we just want them to get over it, get on with it and move on. And we actually can't admit that we've got part accountability in the things in our lives that we've got to own. See, when we've got these challenges, we won't be able to develop our emotional intelligence, and that is key. But I want to come from a place of compassion here, because that's what we're talking about today. See, empathy fits within compassion. But compassion is so much broader than just empathy. So I'm just going to call it out. If we have a lack of compassion for ourselves because we're simply surviving in our world, and we've sat in judgment on our own life, punished ourselves for the decisions we've taken, for our stories, for what's happened to us, we're really less likely to want to connect deeply with others and show them great compassion. I have a term that I'm just going to call out. Our compassion tank is empty. Our compassion tank is empty. So the question poses, if our compassion tank is empty, how's this actually impacting our world? I'm going to walk you through a few things because, of course, this is the world I live in every day. And it's the challenges I get to experience with others as they're navigating how to be better together. And the first one is we won't be able to accept things because acceptance in our mind is giving up on our perspective of being right. So for me, when we look at compassion, compassion allows us acceptance. But that fear of being wrong and being judged will hold us away from acceptance. The second one is, if we have a lack of compassion, we'll end up having to need to prove our worth and our own measure because this tank we have is empty, right? And it feels hollow inside. And so we walk around trying to find ways to fill up the tank. But the love tank and the compassion tank can't be filled by anybody else. We really struggle in our relationships with each other. as we fail to meet each other's expectations and standards, there's this danger that we get caught up in a judgment cycle and we disconnect from each other. See, that judgment cycle is toxic. It's toxic in cultures of work. It's toxic in teams. It's toxic in families. And when the judgment becomes so harsh, there's a lack of forgiveness and the ability to move our relationship forward. And I know that some of you are going, oh my God, are you saying I've got to stay with someone who treats me badly or with a boss that's bullying me? Or no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you always have choice and you have to choose you every time. But when you choose you, you do it from a place of love and compassion. And when you look at them, you recognize that maybe they're doing the best they can with what they have. So that when you forgive them, you are free. And hopefully they end up having to take accountability for their part in the challenge they've caused. I just needed to call that out. How about we struggle in work partnerships because we expect our peers, and I see this often because this is the work I do in alignment, we see them for their failure, okay? And we want to show each other how credible we are, especially on that executive level where, gosh, heaven forbid the mask falls off our face and we're seen so that our weaknesses can be used against us. Really? Are we fighting a world war, or are we actually just leading an organization forward so that we can impact the world with why we're here? I think we forget that everyone is human and that in our humanness, we're actually learning together. The next one I want to call out is we struggle to sit in discomfort with others. I'll use an example. Somebody comes in and they share with you a story that's really hard to hear. Really hard to hear. And in your mind, you're going, well, of course that went badly. What a stupid decision you've made. See, that's not sitting in discomfort with someone. I'm going to replay it for you. Someone comes in, they share their story with you. It's hard. And you can feel with them. You get it. You might not have had that hardship, but my goodness, you've had hardship in your life. And as you're sitting with them, maybe a tear rolls down your cheeks too. Because you're listening and you're deeply connecting. See, discomfort isn't weakness, yet for a lot of us, we see discomfort as weakness. And in that moment, instead of sitting in that space feeling deeply, we want to control it. And we want to avoid the moments with logic and judgment. That will always separate us. And actually, in our humanity, we were made to be together. And we would like others to sit with us in discomfort, but maybe because we are so uncomfortable with discomfort, we refuse to go there. We refuse to actually walk into our story because of what we have done to ourselves and said to ourselves about who we are and our story. I have to talk about discomfort because people that are in discomfort together, that can hold space and release it, are able to be better connected, more empathetic, more honest, more open, free. And then the last one is, mostly we don't know how to show ourselves the compassion needed to simply be who we are without our armor, embracing our imperfection and just be beautifully human. Beautifully human. And in part of being beautifully human, we own what we can that we need to. We recognize when we were in a fearful state, or maybe when we've crashed into somebody else, and we forgive ourselves. And then we choose to have the compassion and love for ourselves first. So in summary, if we really don't have compassion, how can we create a world that is not plagued by separation, loneliness, and continuous cycles of trauma and fear? See, I want to call this out. We want our cultures to change in organizations, but we're trying to change it with taglines and sugar hits and But maybe that's not what will evolve our organizations. What organizations need is to be better together, to reduce the loneliness and to create community, to reduce the fear of failure and to encourage innovation and change. I believe we create a world where we can be better together. But as soon as there's that empty tank in compassion and fear fills that void, we will always be separated by what we are not. I want to call this out. As a human race, we're called to be together. It's time. And it's so hard because we're separated by color, by language, by culture, by religion, by gender. I'm just going to keep going, right? By education. See, all of those things seem to form a quantification of who we need to be. And yes, we need connection in community. Yet we also need the ability to be open, to connect, and to engage with love. I am going to say this. In order to move into that space, it's up to each one of us. Often when I work with leadership teams and executive teams and cultures, I really stress the importance of people growing who they are and having a deep relationship with themselves first. And I can tell you this, it is very uncomfortable because leaders and organizations are not keen to explore this part. So therefore, they get trapped in the continuous cycle of trying to create a culture that's not actually based on deep connection, empathy, and working together. And in how many people's values at the moment do we see this better together value? Well, what does that actually look like? It starts with being better inside each one of us first. And if you're listening to this and you're a leader, it's good to walk the talk. Start with you first. So as an alchemy practice, I love talking about alchemy practices. It's the magical transformation of something that doesn't seem precious into something very precious. You are very precious. And therefore, we've got to go through alchemy practices. And this practice that I'm going to give you is without doubt critical. It's the ability to develop and foster a peaceful mind, an open heart with love and compassion for self, and most importantly, the realization that we're simply human beings together. So how can we work on this compassion quotient? How do you fill up your tank? Okay, let's start with that first one. Let's go with a quiet mind. I was on a flight between Sydney and Melbourne, or Melbourne and Sydney, and I was listening to Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey having a conversation. I just second guessed myself there. Having a conversation about a peaceful mind, a peaceful mind. And I was running a practice. The practice was growing, lots of clients, really busy. And I was thinking, my mind's not peaceful. I'm everywhere. And in it, Deepak Chopra spoke about the different levels of our consciousness and how we can really get peaceful. And it was my first exploration into, and now I've created these bracelets, which I call mindfulness bracelets, besides it being a nice fashion accessory. But I use them in every session I run with my clients. Why? Because I want to remind them that a peaceful mind allows us to be more generous, more open, more wise. And then I came across positive intelligence with Shazad Shamin, and I'm now a facilitator of the work and a coach. And it's really taken that work to the next level. So I would like you to get peaceful with me. Let's do this together. I would like you to take a few deep breaths in and out. Why don't we do this together? Come on. A deep breath in and out. As you focus on that, I want you to focus on the air, the cool air coming into your nose and the warm air coming out of your mouth as you breathe out. Do it slowly. Let's do it together. All right. Now what I want you to do, it's the second activity, is to gently rub your hands together. And as you do this, I want you to feel all the ridges on your hands and see if you can find your fingerprints, but focus on your one hand touching your other hand and where it's moving. That deep sensation of feeling. If your mind wanders off, just bring it back. Focus on your hands. Focus on feeling. All right, now what I want you to do is we're going to do a bit of a body scan. And we're going to do a body scan imagining an energy. So I want you to imagine warmth and love starting at the top of your temple. And then I want you to feel it move through your neck, into your shoulders, into your arms, toward your fingertips, back into your shoulders. Let you feel that energy, that warmth, that love come into the center of your tummy. Hold it there, and now I want you to release it into your legs, down into your feet, into your toes, and then release it out. Nice. All right, let's try and sit still for a moment. And let's tune into the sounds you are hearing. Is it your children's laughter? Is it the air condition that I can hear? Is it the car driving past your window? Good, be peaceful. Okay, how about we do this? I want you to recognize that you're going to accept this moment right now for what it is. You're safe in this moment. You can't change yesterday, and you are not yet in tomorrow. So in this moment, you are right here, right now. Why not accept it for what it is? Why don't you release any fear or anxiety that you have around this moment? All right, how did that feel? I think one of the key parts to having a peaceful mind is to consider that your mind is a highway of so many thoughts, feelings, memories. And why don't we simply observe our mind versus trying to think that every thought we have is who we are and needs immediate action? Why don't we recognize that we are not our thoughts and we are very definitely not our emotions? You see, when we are present and we're not stuck in yesterday's story or worried about tomorrow, that means we can short circuit our survival brain from protecting us when we need to actually be peaceful and helping us switch from our armor, which is our protection mechanisms and our fear, into a state of deep love and acceptance for this moment and for ourselves. How about we start being kind to ourselves by choosing to heal from our story and our pain? You see, this is the second alchemy practice I want to share with you. Gratitude for our life. I came across Shawn Achor's work 4 years ago. I was coaching News Corp managers across Australia on the eastern seaboard, and there must have been about 90 leaders that I was coaching as they were navigating their transformation as an organization. And part of this, I recognized that there was a lot of fear. And I had just accidentally stumbled across the interview between Shawn Achor and Oprah on her Super Soul Sunday program. And I got really excited because he spoke about how if we can shift the way our brain sees our world, we can actually fill our tank. Now, I'm so excited because I probably have just taken it a little bit further. See, if we can practice gratitude for what we have, for our life, for our story, for who we are, and we can practice gratitude for 21 days. They say 3 gratitudes a day for 21 days can shift the way our mind works. If we put this into an organizational cultural frame, imagine if your team got together for 21 days, but even more than that, because the research shows if we can shift the way we work together, we'll find opportunities and innovation. And as a team and a leadership team, every morning you guys check in with each other. You check in with your gratitude before your day gets started. And it's the gratitude for your journey, for your life, for who you are. It shifts the way you see your world. It takes you from a fear to a deeply connected and wise space where you can see opportunities. I want you to consider your moment of judgment that happens, and they will happen because you're human. And as you have moments of judgment in your day, instead of buying that story, I want you to recognize that you have gone into a place of fear and that you can own your part in this and that you can accept and release and forgive. And maybe if you have gone into a moment of judgment, you can use it as a lighthouse moment where you learn about your healing, because that moment of judgment will be triggered by a story, and that story needs to be doused in love. See, we have to have love for ourselves first, not for who we need it to be, but for who we are, for our imperfections. We have to forgive ourselves first and choose to release and then forgive others. Maybe we can do this by simply picking up how we talk to ourselves. I'm so stupid. Well, you know what? If you say things like that, that is not a kind word for yourself. Maybe you can change it like this and go, that decision I just made there was because I'm so tired and I could have done it better. And then if there's someone that you need to say sorry to, do it. See, as soon as I'm making up stories about others, or I'm blaming, or I'm uncomfortable, I need to release something. See, if I don't release it, it compounds, and I've spoken about compounding before, with some parts of my fear stories, and it becomes harder for me to actually be better with others. I'm almost at a close today. I don't know how far we've gone, but I'm really excited because I really hope I've shared with you today how we can be better together. We've got a few minutes left and then we're on our half-hour mark. Only when we connect with compassion can we find our way back to each other. I really want to just remind you what compassion is. I'm going to do that now. Compassion is a place of feeling deeply with others, a place of holding space for someone when they're going through the worst times in their lives, their ups and downs. And maybe that someone is ourself first. Connection and compassion are deeply intertwined, and it's a place where we can hear, see, and value myself and others. In compassion, I can heal with my relationships, with myself and with others, and move forward with wisdom and sincere inner peace. Compassion is not just feeling with others, it's also that desire to help others be free from their suffering, and I call this an alchemy angel. See, once we've gone through our healing and transformation, we're called to do the same for others by sharing our story of hope and love. And finally, compassion is love. It is love. So what's next? Well, my challenge to you is to find a good coach. You can reach out to me if you want to have a chat. Choose you and start by loving you. Why not start a journal for you that says, remember who you are? I am are powerful creation words based on wisdom. I am generous, I am kind, I am healed, I am peaceful. Remember, the greatest gift we've been given as human beings is the gift of choice. And finally, in my journey, I have found that as my love tank for me has increased. My ability to have greater compassion and love for others has increased. I have found I can sit in such deep compassion and discomfort and listen with love and share my perspective with courage. I've also been able to give what I can to support others, of course, when they want it, and not because I wanted to please them. And finally, I've made sure I stay in the supporter lane always. It's a place of nurturing and love for me first. I'm so excited you've joined me for today's session. I have captured my story in my new book called The Glass Angel, A Guide to Transformation, Growth, and Freedom. And it is available on Amazon. If you're in another country, in the US and Canada, Barnes & Noble and Amazon. If you are in Australia, why don't get a beautiful copy from me here at www.ignitepurpose.com.au. If you're listening to this podcast and you're based in South Africa, my book is available on Loot. I am so grateful to be in your world. I'm sending you off now to have a wonderful week. Go and test compassion. Start with yourself first. It's worth it every time. This is Christina Foxwell. Please won't you click, like, share, and make our message of love something we can share into this world so that we can impact cultures, we can help people be better together, and we can really create a world that's kinder. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Ignite Purpose with Christina Foxwell, and we were talking about unlocking compassion. I'd love to have you in my world. Please reach out to me. Find me on Facebook. It's Christina Talliard Foxwell or Ignite Purpose. Find us on LinkedIn, Christina Foxwell or Ignite Purpose. Find us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. I want you in our world. I want you to stay on top of all the things we're seeing, the learnings we're creating, and how we're being better together. If you want to reach out to me, my email is christina@ignitepurpose.com.au. Have an amazing day, and remember, you can love, lead, and live your best life. Take care.